an hour.
We were seeking something fun to talk about this morning, and we found Man Seeking Woman.
That is the name of a new comedy on the FXX network. Jay Baruchel, did I say that right?
Yes, you got it.
Who you might know from How to Train Your Dragon, and This Is the End, is the man seeking love that is not a typical romantic comedy. It's pretty surreal, I'm told.
So it's this interview. To be honest, here's my talk with Jay and his co-star, Eric Andre. Guys, I was just able to watch some of the previews. I think this is awesome. Eric, one thing that I love about this show is that it's got that ultra real to it, those situations we've all been in, and then it's got the crazy. Do you kind of break out the crazy as the show goes on, or is it like right off the bat?
We break out the crazy pretty much right off the bat. Do you mean performance-wise, or does the show go crazy
the
right
plot,
off the bat?
you know, whether you have Hitler involved or a troll or whatnot. And now do you kind of like lead the audience in, and they're like, oh, this is kind of a fun, you know, best friend tries to help out his friend get a date, and then suddenly you have, you know, the devil walking through the screen.
Yeah, no,
exactly.
That's it. I think, you know, it's a grand total of 6 minutes of our season before stuff goes really crazy.
Do you have, obviously, you probably had a hand in this. Do you improvise at all while you were filming this?
Yeah, we get to riff all the time. It's awesome.
Whether or not they decide to use it or they're just humoring us.
Whether or not they like it, we riff.
That's a whole nother thing. Much to the chagrin of our bosses, we can't stop talking. So, but every once in a while, one of them makes it in there, and I'm sure it was worth the 45 minutes of nonsense we said.
Of unusable nonsense we said before.
So did you use some of your own life history as material here, or did this script get put in front of you and you're like, oh, I can relate to that, but that's not like my story?
I mean, I think ideally, if you're doing your job correctly, there's at least part of you and part of your life experiences in any character you play, and so, like, yeah, I'm not, you know, I'm not as, I'd like to think I'm not as sad and depressing a character as Josh Greenberg is, but at the whole sort of point of Josh Greenberg is we've all been there. He's this wonderful prototype of all of our greatest failures. So every Wednesday you get to tune in and watch me get my ass handed to me so that you guys don't have to.
Me, on the other hand, I am not a ladies' man. I am a virgin. You can't say that in Chattanooga, but you can say that in Rochester, and that's what I like about you, Adam.
All right, well, I appreciate that. Eric, what's your favorite scene that you were in when you're telling people about the show? You're like, if you watch anything, you have to watch this scene.
Probably the bro shelter stuff.
Yeah, without giving too much away.
Yeah, how do I talk about it without spoiling it?
He gets put in a pound, so we'll just say that.
Yeah, I get put in a bro pound instead of a dog pound.
One of my favorite scenes just from the preview is when, Jay, you jump over the little turnaround, that's not the word for it, but to try to get on the subway, and you would put your drink up and you knocked it over. I just thought to myself, I've been there. Like, we've all had those moments, not just with girls, but in this particular case. So I just think it's funny that you touch on the very detailed aspects of dating and just being a guy trying to live his life, but then you go into the surreal.
That's exactly it. I think, you know, and I don't know that that this particular point of view is seen very often. You know, I think the kind of waxing sentimental about dating is not usually done from a male point of view on television. But I think, you know, the way that we play defense against it ever becoming too sort of precious or like, is that, like, just as soon as you get a bit sad, Hitler shows up. So there's, like, I think, you know, one of the things we do really well on this show is we never let people get super comfortable. As soon as it gets crazy, then it goes to someplace real small and sad. And as soon as it gets to that point, it then goes way crazier again. And I think those two elements, those two forms, those two styles help each other. And I think that is part of the recipe for why our show is kind of unlike anything on TV right now.
Yeah, I think I'm going to like this. Outside of the show, real quick, what's next for each of you?
Oh, boy.
I'm getting a sex change.
And I'm changing his sex.
And he's going to be the surgeon.
Yeah,
So,
it's gonna be gross.
it's gonna be a real backdoor kind of operation.
Yeah, back door. Try your backyard.
Backyard. It's like when the basketball players get blood transfusions. It's gonna be like just like in an alleyway somewhere.
I smell a reality TV show here.
That and that and all sorts of other fun stuff.
Yeah.
And that's where we had to end that interview.
Yeah, so there were things that were said even after that. That's why we kind of just cut it off. We're just going to say thank you to Jay and Andre at this point. Thank them for their time. And I will just proclaim, I will just say that when I asked them what they were going to do, I was thinking of their professional projects.
Yeah, kind of that might be the natural follow-up, but apparently not.
No, we got an insight into their medical history. So.
Speaking of medical.